Phil is one of the warmest and most human people you can get to know, and I think that's what makes all of us like working with him so much.
He just was so good with issues and quick study. He could get a handle on things, and he could write really well and really fast.
He was the fellow whom we sent to cover some of the big explosive stories of the 1960s.
He has what we call a font of useless knowledge in our family, so he'll beat everybody at Trivial Pursuit and things like that.
He shows that even as journalism is changing dramatically, if you're flexible and you can adapt to the changes, you can make a successful career with it.
Superb editor, great understanding of the business side of a journalistic organization and how the two need to work together.
Phil is one of the finest men, both professionally and personally, that I've ever known.
He was right in the thick of it. I don't want to overstate things, but I always thought he was brilliant.
He started off with the typical cinematic idea of what a newspaper man should be. Tough.
One of the things people really like in the newsroom is that he's always wandering around to find out what stories people are working on. Even though he's got the top job here at the Chronicle now, he's so engaged in the journalism itself that you can see the excitement when a reporter tells him about a great story they're working on.
Phil is a product of the era of the mid-60s, more than anybody else I know. Students were asking for more freedom. There was censorship. You couldn't read just anything in school. Everything was just happening all at once, and Phil was right in the middle of that.
We all wrote about everything, but he particularly specialized in the turmoil on the campuses, the protests over the Vietnam War, and tremendous fervor on the part of students to try to change the course of history in a way.
Then that transitioned into just the Chronicle of higher education. He's been in his element ever since.
When he left in the morning, I never knew what was going to happen by the time he got home at night because he'd be in the buildings with the students. There were times when he came home when I had to mend clothing because the police didn't really recognize press credentials back then.
The signature story for Phil was the coverage of the Kent State incident, the shootings at Kent State in May. I remember it well. It was May 4th, 1970. He had credibility with a lot of the leaders of the student movements that I don't think a lot of other mainstream reporters had. So that gave him a lot of access. And he also had credibility with college administrators. So he was one of the few people who could sort of talk to both camps and get their perspectives, and he did a fabulous job.
His coverage of that event stands as one of the great pieces of journalism, I think, in the 20th century.
A lot of people who work for nonprofits loved the idea of a newspaper that would focus on their interests. And they approached the Chronicle and said, we'd really like something like the Chronicle of Higher Education to cover the nonprofit world.
The Chronicle of Philanthropy was actually his baby. He started that. The first editor made a great success of it. It's the Bible of the nonprofit world.
There were times when the business plan didn't look like it was going to work, when we had, we would sit down and we'd pump all these numbers in terms of what the subscriber base needed to be and what the circulation price needed to be. And we didn't think it was going to make it. And Phil kept coming back with new ways to do the business plan. And by God, he finally got one that worked and the paper's still there. So he just stuck with that. And there were many times when I think the overall organization was ready to say, this ain't going to go. We ain't going to do it. But Phil, he kept going, kept pushing.
One of the traits he had is to always ask why. Ask questions. Don't stop with the simple answer. Ask a deeper question and drill in until you really feel like you've got the story.
The first thing that really struck me was that he's just so smart. He's a really intelligent person, and he has a really good sense of humor. I guess Phil showed that a small-town boy from Hood River can make big, and other people can too.
Congratulations. I think the University of Oregon has made a brilliant choice.
Hey, Phil, congratulations. You really deserve this recognition. You've waited a while for it, and I'm glad it has come through.
And when you come to accept an award from the University of Oregon, all I can say is, what took them so long?
Congratulations on this honor, Phil, and thank you so much for all that you've done to teach me and my colleagues. We really appreciate it.
I'm so proud to have been part of the organization and working with you.
Congratulations, Phil. You just really deserve this for all the hard work you've put in over all of these years.